The exorcist who was physically attacked during a ritual. This case is remembered not for what was said during the ritual, but for what broke protocol in the middle of it. The ritual was controlled. The subject was restrained. Then something changed. The priest assigned to the case was experienced. He had participated in multiple sanctioned exorcisms and followed the ritual text precisely. The subject had shown minimal resistance up to that point. No shouting, no violent outbursts, only prolonged silence during prayer. The ritual began normally. The priest spoke calmly. Assistants remained nearby. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the woman's posture shifted, not dramatically, just enough to signal awareness. When holy water was applied, there was no visible reaction. But when a command of authority was spoken, the room grew tense. The priest later reported feeling pressure, an unusual heaviness in the air. As he continued, the subject's arm moved suddenly, not randomly, directly toward him. Witnesses described the motion as deliberate. The priest stumbled backward, losing balance briefly. No serious injury occurred. But what disturbed those present was not the movement. It was the timing. The reaction came precisely when the priest spoke a specific invocation. When assistants attempted to steady the subject, resistance increased, but not chaotically. Measured, focused, the ritual continued. The priest regained composure and repeated the command. This time, the subject froze completely. The room fell silent. When asked to identify itself, the voice responded calmly. "You assume distance protects you." The exorcism escalated. Additional clergy were called in. Protective prayers were repeated. Gradually, resistance weakened. The subject collapsed unconscious. She survived. The priest sustained only minor physical strain, but the case altered procedure. From that point forward, clergy were instructed never to assume physical safety, even when cases appeared stable. In his final report, the priest wrote, "Force is not always chaotic. Sometimes it is precise." The Vatican sealed the file. The closing note contains no dramatics-only instruction. Preparedness must include proximity. Some cases disturb because of what is said, others because of what nearly happens. If you're drawn to Catholic mysteries, sealed church cases, or items tied to faith and protection, I keep those collected in my Amazon store. Nothing required. Some people just prefer not to leave stories like this without grounding. So tell me, do you think the attack was meant to harm, or to test how close authority was willing to stand? He no longer performs rituals publicly, but the Vatican still calls him. The priest's record is not widely available. No interviews, no public biography. Only quiet references in internal correspondence. At the time, exorcism protocols were being reviewed and standardized. But the most resistant, clergy who worked with him, described his method as restrained. He did not raise his voice. He did not prolong ritual unnecessarily. That detail appears repeatedly in archive notes. Over time, his name appeared less frequently in official records. Younger priests were trained. New methods were implemented. He stepped back. Officially, he retired from active assignments. He does not travel. He does not perform the ritual. He reviews the documentation. He listens to recordings. In one case, he advised altering a single phrase in the invocation. Resistance ceased immediately afterward. In another, he instructed clergy to delay confrontation entirely. The subject stabilized without escalation. What unsettles some within the church is not that he remains consulted, but that his methods rarely involve escalation. He has reportedly warned that repetition benefits the presence more than the priest. The Vatican does not publicly acknowledge his continued involvement. His name appears only in margins, never headlines. The final note attached to his archived file reads, "Experience does not expire. It adapts. Some stories frighten because of confrontation, others because of quiet authority. If you're drawn to Catholic mysteries, sealed Vatican files, or items tied to faith and protection. Some people just prefer not to leave stories like this without grounding. So tell me, do you think the Vatican still consults him out of respect, or because some cases haven't changed? The Vatican healer who stopped a possession without words. This case was not remembered for ritual intensity, but for how little was spoken. No commands were issued. No scripture was read aloud. And yet the possession ended. The healer was not widely known. He held no public office and rarely participated in formal exorcisms. But within Vatican circles, he was occasionally consulted when standard methods failed. The case assigned to him had already undergone multiple rituals. Nothing violent, nothing dramatic. But the presence refused to yield. Clergy described it as patient, composed, unmoved by confrontation. When the healer entered the room, he did not begin with prayer. He did not introduce himself. He simply stood near the subject. Observers later reported that the room grew unusually still, not tense, just quiet. The subject had been restrained lightly as a precaution. When the healer stepped closer, her breathing changed. Not rapidly, slower, measured. The healer never raised his voice. He did not invoke authority aloud. Instead, he placed his hand lightly on the back of a chair, not touching the subject. Minutes passed. No visible struggle. No resistance. Then the woman's posture softened. The presence had previously responded verbally to every priest. This time, it remained silent. The first noticeable shift occurred when the healer closed his eyes. No words were spoken. Yet the subject's expression changed, as if listening to something others could not hear. When clergy attempted to intervene, the healer raised one hand slightly. They stopped. After several minutes, the woman collapsed, not violently, but as if released from strain. Medical checks confirmed stability. When she regained consciousness, she reported no memory of the ritual. More notably, there were no further disturbances. No recurrence, no relapse. The healer offered no explanation. When asked what prayer he had used, he answered quietly, none spoken. He submitted no written report beyond a single sentence. Authority does not always require volume. The Vatican sealed the case. The final notation in the file reads, "Some confrontations are not battles. They are recognition. Some cases disturb because of resistance, others because of how quickly it disappears. If you're drawn to Catholic mysteries, sealed Vatican files, or items tied to faith and protection, I keep those collected in my Amazon store. Nothing required. Some people just prefer not to leave stories like this without grounding. So tell me, do you think the healer stopped the possession? Or did something recognize him first? The exorcist who recorded every case, this case is remembered not because of what happened during the rituals, but because of what the priest chose to document afterward. Most exorcisms are archived. Some are summarized. He recorded everything. The priest was known for precision. He kept detailed journals, not emotional reflections, but structured observations, dates, times, verbatim responses. He believed patterns mattered. Over the course of his assignment, he documented every exorcism he participated in. Minor cases, severe cases, incomplete cases, nothing was omitted. He recorded the exact wording of commands, the timing of responses, even changes in room temperature and posture. At first, superiors appreciated the discipline. The church values documentation, but concerns emerged when patterns began to appear. The priest noted recurring phrases across unrelated subjects, identical wording from individuals who had never met. He observed similar reactions to specific prayers, no matter the location. In one entry, he wrote, "Resistance adapts when repetition becomes predictable." That statement raised attention. He also documented something else. In later cases, certain responses anticipated his phrasing. Subjects completed his sentences before he finished the invocation. The priest adjusted wording experimentally. The pattern continued. In a private memorandum, he wrote, "It is possible the ritual is being studied." That sentence changed everything. His superiors reviewed his journals. They did not dispute the entries, but they instructed him to limit personal experimentation. Shortly afterward, he was reassigned, not as punishment officially, as precaution. His journals were collected and archived. Only summaries remained publicly acknowledged. In his final written note, the priest did not claim victory or failure. He wrote, "Documentation preserves memory. It may also reveal progression." The Vatican sealed the full records. The final notation in the archive contains a brief instruction. Procedure must evolve. Patterns are not accidental. Some cases disturb because of what happens, others because of what repeats. If you're drawn to Catholic mysteries, sealed church files, or items tied to faith and protection, I keep those collected in my Amazon store. Nothing required. Some people just prefer not to leave stories like this without grounding. So tell me, do you think the priest uncovered a pattern or became part of one? He never described apparitions. He said he could feel when something was present. The priest had no reputation for dramatics. He avoided interviews, declined public recognition, spoke rarely outside of assigned duties. But within Vatican circles, he was occasionally consulted for one reason. He claimed he could sense when a case involved more than psychological distress, not visually, not audibly, physically. He described it as pressure, not in the room, on himself. He waited. In several documented cases, he identified severe possession before symptoms escalated. No voice shifts, no aversion to sacred objects. The attending clergy prepared to dismiss the case. He later described feeling a distinct heaviness in his chest, localized, immediate. He requested the room be cleared. What had seemed stable became resistant. Observers later admitted that without his warning, the escalation would have been unexpected. He never explained the mechanism. When asked how he sensed it, he answered simply, "It is not detection, it is recognition." It was familiarity. That detail disturbed superiors. Familiarity implied exposure, repeatedly. Over time, the priest requested fewer assignments, not because he felt overwhelmed, but because, as he wrote, repeated proximity alters perception. He retired quietly. No scandal, no dramatic incident. But in his final report, he included a brief caution. Discernment is not the same as sensitivity. Sensitivity can be cultivated. The Vatican sealed his case history. The final notation contains no explanation, only a warning. Some awareness is developed. Some awareness is invited. Some cases frighten because of what is seen. Others because of what is felt. If you're drawn to Catholic mysteries, sealed church files, or items tied to faith and protection, I keep those collected in my Amazon store. Nothing required. Some people just prefer not to leave stories like this without grounding. So tell me, do you think the priest sensed demons, or did something learn how to reach him first?